Good afternoon. Why I'm back on here again. Yeah, now I'm live. Wasn't.
Yep, start
You right now? Right. Good afternoon. While I'm back on here again, I've spent the last few days and I've looked at Ann Toomey's videos and her little friend David's videos. I've never listened to so much ambiguous, nonsensical crap as you've put out, you two. Not because I think you're a liar. I think you've been treated like a mushroom, kept in the dark and fed nothing but bull dust, because nothing you have said makes sense. To start off with, David, your version of why Western Australia never went into Federation the same time as everybody else was not true. If you want to find out the truth, I'm not going to spell it out. I'm not going to try and make a fool of you. You need to get off your lazy butt, go up to Boulder near Kalgoorlie, go to the museum there. There's a big hall. And over the wall of the hall is every single thing you need to know about why Western Australia never went into Federation the same time. Why? Was the reasons being that good old Premier at the time was ripping off the miners with the price of gold. The reason they didn't want to go in and wanted to separate, they didn't want to go in all right under South Australia and sell all their gold and that in South Australia and Victoria, because John Forrest wanted all the profit, so he was taking it all, apparently. Now, in relation to the Prime Minister, everything you said is nonsense. It's a lie. Where the heck did you get that? The Prime Minister is a Primary Minister of the Federal Parliament when it was established. We did have a Prime Minister selected by the people who framed the Constitution, Sir Edmund Barton, and that was at Federation. After that, they had to be appointed by the Parliament. That person had to be the senior person in the Parliament, being the Speaker. He is not noted in the Constitution of any office of existence. Didn't have any. So where'd you get it from? Rubbish. That's where you got it from. And that what you're trying to purport is you know everything. Well, the political parties didn't exist at that time, so that makes a mockery of what you said. So you should have known that. But being you're a redhead, well, I was too, you can learn. But you got to stop looking above your camera, because what you're saying, you're reading. Same as Ann Toomey, she looks at the bottom underneath her camera lens, so she's reading what she's saying too. What's wrong with your heads? Can't you contain the information you got? And that's the problem. You're repeating what someone else says. Now, I've watched all the videos and I agree, most of what you said is a load of crap. You Ann Toomey, you're the plenary powers of the Parliament, that's absolute lies and nonsense. What does the Federal Parliament have the power to do? Under 51 subsection 1, pass laws for the good governance and well-being of the Commonwealth of Australia. That's it. All their legislative authority contained in 51. But if you go to 936, which you used when you were having an attack on what I said earlier, but that doesn't matter to me, I got thick skin. Your big problem is you referred to page 936, and that was the 8th line down, and you couldn't remember that, but it doesn't matter. I can, you couldn't. Municipal institutions and local government. And as I explained, there was no local government in any of the state constitutions. I read it, I showed you the one for Western Australia, it's not in there, the proper one. In one put in at Federation with 32 sections missing, it was added with number 88 in 1979, an act of the state parliament. On what? Based on what? On what authority? Oh, I know. You said you got plenary powers. No, that's a lie. And then you decided that you could have local government because Glew versus the Granite Shire. Well, that's an interesting one because I gave you HCA 48 in 1996. And if you read that and read the decision by Wheeler, Paul and Bust, quorums, not judges, they're quorums. And I come to a lot of what they lied about because they did lie. They sat in criminal contempt of the High Court. Because that decision, HCA 48 of 1996, said clearly the states did not exist prior to federation, which is what their decision said it was. And that decision the High Court said it wasn't. Because McGuinty put that and tried to get the High Court to back up what he said, which was a lie. It's a lie. Absolute lie. Now, if you keep repeating it after I've told you and you read, you've got reference to that section, then you become the liar. Because it's there in front of you for you to read. And you're putting yourself up as an expert. My version is an expert has been the spurts to drip under pressure. Stop acting like it if you don't want to be called it. The fact of the matter is, Ann Toomey, you put yourself up as a constitutional expert, and you're not. There's no one's an expert in the Constitution. There's people with a high level of knowledge in relation to the sections of it and everything else. It's convenient for you to go to the Red Book and refer to page 936. 935, 936, 937 refers to powers exercisable by the Federal Parliament exclusively, State Parliament exclusively, and joined together with the states in the same section. It's all there. But that, according to you, the Red Book is just a book. As I explained to you and I showed you, the Commonwealth Constitution Act is in that book, 1900 UK. It also, in the preamble section, which you referred to in another one of your videos, it states it's an enabling act. It was put together by Australians, taken to England to produce an enabling act which allows Australia to have a constitution. Enables them to have it. That's what it was. It was proclaimed and gazetted on the 9th of July 1900 in England. It came to here, where on the 1st of January 1901 it was proclaimed and gazetted and then put in place as the Constitution of the Commonwealth. Fact. It's all there. You can't deny it because it's a fact. You can say what you like, but you don't know what you're talking about. Go back and look up what I'm saying. You'll find out it's correct. All right. In that Red Book, you go to Mr. O'Connor, which your little friend said was one of the people who put the Constitution together. Your little friend David. That's what he said. Mr. O'Connor was one of the people who put it together. When you read his comments in the earlier parts before Federation, he said, if it was asked of a politician, what's the highest authority in the state, in law, he would say the state constitution. That leads near the truth but doesn't quite reach it, simply because the supreme, absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with the people. That's in the Red Book. You said that Clause 9 is the clause that brings out the Commonwealth or establishes the Commonwealth. I read Clause 4, which said it does that job, so you got that wrong. Obviously, whoever told you a lie. Do not repeat it. Read the clauses. Then you'll understand. Clause 6 said lists all the colonies. They're also in the preamble in the Red Book. That preamble and those annotations are written by the people who wrote the Constitution because they wanted us, the people of the Commonwealth, to comprehend and fully understand the interpretation of the Constitution according to the people who wrote it, who put it there for us, for we the people, not for the politicians, not for the idiots, because they are supposed to represent us. Now we've got representatives and we've got an opposition to that representation. Brain dead fools. Why would we have someone representing us and then vote for another person to oppose that? Why would we allow it? Because we just don't know. Your little mate seems to think that conscription was all right because the federal parliament would give them the right to pass laws to run the military. That's a lie. Well, it's not. Section 68 of the Constitution says the Governor-General has control over the military forces. Her Majesty's Royal Australian Army, Royal Australian Navy, Royal Australian Air Force, Royal, by royal proclamation. How did you change that? You didn't. You lied and took it. So every time you send somebody off to war, where you have conscripted them against their will, because that's what conscription is, take them away against their will and send them to another country to satisfy the political ambitions of the idiots who sit in our parliaments. That's literally what they're doing. That's called murder when they die. Murder. Because you had no right to put them there. You knew if they went there and got shot at and they got hit, they would die. That's murder. It's willful murder if you knew they were going to aim at any particular person. But it's murder for sending them there. So when you want to bag our military or our heroes, bear in mind this. Aboriginal people, Australians and Kiwis all went to war. Who for? The whole South area. New Zealand, Australia, New Guinea, all the islands, in defence of them. Why? Because some moron sitting in Parliament picked an argument with them and decided we had to fight them. You needed the people to volunteer because you can't conscript them. They're supreme. You can't just conscript them. And they're sovereign. Are they? Page 676, the last two lines on that page. First two on the next. It says the Parliament is not supreme, and the very essence of federation is that that must be so. The Parliament, like everyone else, is subject to the law and must abide by it. Your version, Ann Toomey, is crap. It's there. Page 791. But then when you go to page 791, it's chapter 3, section 76, page 791, the middle of the last paragraph. It says neither the federal nor the state parliaments are sovereign bodies. They're simply legislatures with limited authority. If they attempt to pass a law in excess of that authority, the law is a nullity and affords no obedience. What are they talking about? Simply, we've got three tiers of parliament. If we had a lawful federal parliament, which we didn't and don't, for reasons I've explained, the federal executive, being the Governor-General, he selects 10 from the lower house of the federal parliament, 10 from the House of Representatives, and 8 from the Senate. They are the executive parliament. There is no cabinets, unless that's where you keep your drugs and wine and all the rest of the garbage you get away with taking into our Parliament House. You comprehend what I'm saying, Ann Toomey? I hope you watch it. I watched all your garbage. You should watch all mine. Whether it's garbage or not, you should watch it. That's my thinking anyway. You may not think I'm worthy. I couldn't care less. I've read the Constitution and I've studied it for 50 years. You haven't. I doubt if you've been away that long, you don't look that old. I am that old. Anyway, let's get back to it. You come up with all sorts of reasons why the Parliament is sovereign and supreme, but it's not. So, if we have a Governor-General and an executive, and we do, that's what it's supposed to be. We haven't had one since 1960, February 1960. Either at state or federal level. You remove them all, the political parties. Without authority, they committed blatant treason. Now, they put the legislation together. No one else. Not the political parties. Not in line with their policies and their beliefs and all the rest of their lies. So, you're actually lying. Again. G'day, Monica Fieldman. I have sick to death with listening to you and your dribble. You go in here, you propose that people should believe this, people should believe that. You claim that you know this, you know that, but you don't. You don't. Now, when you're looking at how laws go through the Parliament, they're put together by the Governor-General in Council, if it was lawful, but he's not. It goes to the lower house, which is the House of Representatives. Then, if they say it's all the legislation is correct, it's in line with the law, they give it to the Senate. The Senate checks out whether it complies with the Constitution and everything else. Now, if you expect that that is going to become law, you've got to wait until the Governor-General gets it, weighs it up against the Constitution, agrees with you that it's correct according to the Constitution. He will sign it. That law then binds the Crown to a law made pursuant to our Constitution. Pretty hefty thing, isn't it? But you took away the power of the Governor-General using an act made in 1985 by Bob Hawke and a letters patent. How does a moron who has never sworn the oath of allegiance, and in your own words, Anne Toomey, has dual citizenship with Israel? Because his mother was a part Aboriginal and his father was a Jew, and he's got it. Why didn't you kick him out of Parliament? Why didn't you kick Abbott? And all the rest of them did it. You made a mockery of your own nonsense when you started kicking people out of Parliament. And as for the High Court ruling that England as a place becomes states, and that's after January the 1st, 1901, under the provisions of 107, 108 and 109. Till then they were colonies. But they didn't reach there, because on the 9th of July 1900, under the provisions of Clause 7, the one before it, they ceased to exist. So did the Australasian Council. Ceased to exist. States that in Section 51, subsection 38 of the Red Constitution. That's the decision of the framers. It's also the decision of Queen Victoria. You say it isn't, you're a nut job. She put those clauses in there. So you can't say it's anything else. Now, where you come unstuck big time, all those sections of those clauses are binding. But after it says the Boundaries Act no longer applies when the colonies become states, it says, however, when the Commonwealth is established, it's established as a self-governing colony of England. And your addition to that was, the Australia Act didn't need a referendum. So you throw the whole lot out, throw out the fact that it's made in line with us becoming an independent nation, which it states at the top of the Australia Act, the Australian one. But what it doesn't tell you in the Australia Act, they didn't give that to England. That's not in theirs. And you said the picture of Queen Elizabeth signing the Australia Act, you said that that is the case, and you applied it to that. And you had to do it at the same time as they did in England. Well, that's funny, because they didn't sign it in England. They said, take it back to the people and produce a referendum. And you said they don't need one. You're a liar. If you say you're an expert, then you definitely are a liar. Because you should have made sure that that's the case rather than say it. You can't just say, don't need a referendum. Any alteration, that altered the Constitution. Altered it. But was there a federal parliament? No, there wasn't. No states either. By 1985 there were no states. 1975 they ceased to exist. But that was the whole platform of the Labor Party, is to remove all the states and put local government, that you call local government, in their place. And it gets even worse than that. In Queensland, a friend rang up and said he's been ordered to answer why he never voted in a local government referendum. They're not a government. They're not a government. What laws are they going to use? Oh, the Parliament passed a law according to their ideas. Yeah, well, the Parliament are full of lies in Queensland. That doesn't surprise me. The garbage that comes out there, especially from Pluckachuk, what a moron. Anyway, let's go back to the issues. Western Australia never put its lawful constitution in place, or it wasn't lawfully constituted. It was established under 107, 108 and 109, but it needed 106 and compliance with that, but it didn't have it because they put a fraudulent constitution in place. Then, every other state removed their constitutions by 1975, so you didn't have a federal parliament to pass anything. Nothing. We got a notification, too low FPS, action needed. Anyway, well, let's leave off on that. Now, go back to what I was saying. Without the 6 states, you cannot have a federal parliament. Read chapter 1. And we've never, ever had them, so we've never, ever had a lawful federal parliament. So everything you said in relation to the powers of the parliament are just a lie. Absolute lie. You can't say it's anything else because it does not exist. It's a lie. So the biggest problem we have is people like you who go on the internet, YouTube, and you've got your own little section there and your page there and you've got it a fancy name and you get on there and blab everything that's not true. Whether it is a lie is whether you knew. I don't propose to say you're a liar, but I would say you have to know, if you're going to claim to be an expert, that everything they've said is a lie. But then when you look at the law, which is the Constitution, and all laws made pursuant to it, it sets a boundary as how we wish to be governed. So as for your plenary powers, that's a lie. Now let's go back to Glew versus the Greenwich Shire, because I need to clear that up. Those two so-called judges agreed with the lower courts. Well, look at the lower court. First, it was the Magistrates Court, had no authority to make it, because the Magistrate Court Act of Western Australia, 2004, Section 35, says prerogative writs of mandamus, prohibition and certiorari cannot be issued against this court. What have they just said? They're not officers of the Commonwealth. The High Court's ruled they're not officers of the Commonwealth. They ruled the Parliament of Western Australia. None of them are officers of the Commonwealth. Why? Because they haven't taken the lawful oath. They won't tell you that. But then Julie Wager, the chief purported judge, but she's another quorum, doesn't exist in law, she said, when I put the decision, or a 1923 decision in relation to fee simple to her, she said, I'm not bound by the dicta of Isaacs. I said, it's not dicta. The Colonial Laws Validity Act means it's law in this country, especially under Clause 5. There's another one for you, Clause 5. Now you've got a problem, but she ignored it, and she found against me. Of course she's gonna. She's fighting for the government, because that's who's paying her. She doesn't work for us. She doesn't work for the Crown. She works for the government. That's why they're not officers of the Commonwealth. They're public officers, creatures of statute, and can never be officers of the Crown. Sydney City Council versus Reid states that. Oh, look at that. Oh, we're not going to abide by that either. Fijo versus the Northern Territory, again, replenishes what Chalice Real Property stands for in relation to fee simple, alienated from the Crown. Well, if the Crown's the only authority to tax your land, and our land we've purchased, bought, paid for, alienates the land from the Crown, which it does in the law, where does the Crown, that you call the Crown, which is used, you say you're the Crown, get the right to tax it in any way? So what I put to Wheeler, Pull and Bus, and they admitted that rates are a tax, because 51 subsection 2 of the Constitution says any exaction of money, for example, rates, look at that, levies, tolls, licences, etc., are a tax. So is it a tax? Yes. The Supreme Court of Western Australia ruled, yes, in general terms it is a tax. Whether they like it or not, it is. Because the Constitution says so, the red one. Decision of the framers. that a tax is what I've just said. Are you going to say they're wrong? If you do, I'll call you a liar, because you should have checked it out before you mouthed off. You want me to concede and say everything you said is correct. No, everything you said is wrong. Wrong. I don't hate young David. He's only a young bloke with his big crop of red hair and his red beard, mouthing off about how good he is, and he says that. I'm not. I always say, if you find something I say is wrong, show me in the Constitution. I'll look it up, and then I'll come back on here and say I'm wrong. Why? Because it's the truth. If you don't live in truth, you live in lies. And that's where you're living, in lies. You can't prove a darn thing you said. And I know you can't. Why? Because I have read it. And I remember it. And if I'm wrong, I admit it. What I said the other day is, you lie about me, and I'll tell the truth about you. And I'll continue that. So while you're mulling over what I've just said, understand this. There is no local government, as you have it, that can ever be established, because we said no in 1988 to the continuance. No to the establishment. I don't care what you say, and to me, anything else other than that is a lie. You see, I actually read them in an earlier video from the list of referendums. You can remove all the things. I've seen what you are playing with. Decisions of the High Court you remove, but I actually downloaded them all. A friend of mine did. And I've got a big heap of them. And I know what those decisions said. They're binding on the courts, judges and people of every state. You can't take them out. You do, you commit treason. And criminal contempt of the High Court. So while you're milling over what I've said, pull your head out of the left side of your right ear and open your brain up. You've got nothing in there. You are full of garbage. You don't want me to attack you? I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking what you said, because it's a lie. It's a fraud. And whether you like it or not, the people are the Commonwealth. The government is so, and they're only a parliament, they're subservient to the people. You stated the Australian government is not a corporation. You got that right, but you didn't explain what it was. The Commonwealth of Australia Proprietary Limited is a registered trading company, US Department of Justice. The number is 0000805157. Look at that come out of my head. Amazing. Not really. Queen Elizabeth gave Gough Whitlam permission to set up a trading company for a platform to sell Australian produce into the world market. Go look it up, it's all there. When Whitlam was sacked because he went outside the Senate when they rejected his budget and tried to borrow money off, I think it was China, I'm not dead sure on that, for the budget, he was sacked. He was sacked by Kerr. Kerr, you can call him whatever you like. He did the right thing by the Australian people. He sacked an act of blatant treason against the people and against their constitution and against the Commonwealth Constitution Act. I don't know what's in the letters that transpired between Queen Elizabeth and Gough Whitlam in relation to setting that up. I don't know, because the High Court won't release them. Because the political parties don't want the truth to come out. They don't want you to know that what I just said is correct. Now, getting back to what you said, the Australian government is not a corporation, nor are any of the government departments. The Australian government has an Australian business number because they're trading companies. Why? Because the High Court ruled that HCA 11 of 2015, that's the one, Queensland Rail. They said if you've got an ABN number, you provide services for money, you're a trading company. Doesn't matter what you think. They ruled. Every single one of the entities that come in from overseas that are registered with FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act of America, as foreign agent government entities, the only way they can come into this country is under the Fair Work Act of Australia through the Corporations Act and have to have an ABN number. And as soon as they get that ABN number, they become trading companies at federal level. So how does a federally registered trading company come into a state and tax the people on their land and everything else when no one in Australia has the authority over your land? It's alienated from the Crown. The only right to tax or legislate against the land under the Crown. It's not there. It's not there. So have a good think about what I said, because you come back with another pack of lies, I'll answer those. And yes, I will keep watching your YouTube channel and yours, David, the red-headed warrior. Go to Boulder and look up why Western Australia didn't go into Federation. And Western Australia went into Federation on a declaration from Queen Victoria. That's in the upstairs of the office of the Church of England, St George's Terrace, Perth, opposite Supreme Court Gardens. I've got a copy. You can go there and get it. Go and have a look at the truth. Stop repeating government lies, because if you start repeating them from now on and people are aware, you become a liar and a fraud. And that's the fraud I'm talking about. So you have a lovely rest of your Saturday. I don't wish you any ill will. Get your story straight. Stop misleading and deceiving the people. Thank you.